Hi there. I'm Dr. Suzanne Bechtel, a passionate legal educator dedicated to making legal studies clear, practical, and even a little inspiring. On this channel, you'll find a growing collection of videos designed to help you prepare for the Certified Paralegal exam. It covers key topics, breaking down complex concepts, and offering study tips that actually stick. If you're looking for a deeper dive, check out my Teachable School, where I offer structured courses, interactive tools, and exclusive resources to support your journey towards certification. Watch this video to the end and you'll find a coupon code for a discount. Don't forget to subscribe and explore the playlists. Your success on the NALA CP exam starts here. Now, before we move on to the lecture, there are two important disclaimers. First of all, this is not considered legal advice. Everything shared here is designed to support your learning journey. Also, I am not a lawyer. This course is designed to help you understand the concepts of the exam. Hello again. This short lecture covers sole proprietorships. And our goals of this lecture include defining sole proprietor and sole proprietorship, the legal formalities that must be followed by a sole proprietorship, advantages and disadvantages of doing business as a sole proprietor, and the concept of assumed names and the procedures that need to be followed before assuming an assumed name, trade name, or fictitious name, the role of the paralegals who work with the sole proprietors, and the resources you need for further research regarding sole proprietors. You're probably familiar with what sole proprietorships are, or sole proprietors, and you may even yourself be a sole proprietor. Your personal experience in complying with formalities associated with doing business as a sole proprietorship may come to mind. And many of the requirements are state or local formalities. And you might also look to the U.S. Small Business Administration for more information about sole proprietors. So to define a sole proprietorship, the sole proprietorship is an unincorporated business, and it's owned by one person. And the sole proprietorship is not considered a separate entity of a proprietor themselves. Rather, it's an extension of the individual sole proprietor. The sole proprietor is personally responsible for all debts and obligations, and they begin doing business without incorporating. They have full management. The advantages include doing business as a sole proprietorship. It is the simplest and most common form of business in the United States, including businesses that you would think would need the protections that we're going to learn about in the future types of businesses, the other types of businesses that we're going to cover in future lectures. So they're the smallest and the most common form of business in the United States. And there are some advantages, and one is probably one of the favorites is they have full management authority. The sole proprietor, has full management authority, and they with these fewer formalities, the minimal formalities, reporting requirements are easier on the sole proprietorship. And there are low costs operating with the sole proprietorship. And there's some beneficial taxation areas for the individual because the business is taxed at the individual's level. And it's easy to discontinue a sole proprietorship, unlike some of these that we're going to learn about in future lectures. And there are disadvantages with every benefit. There are risks. The most serious one of doing business as a sole proprietorship is the unlimited liability of the sole proprietor for all debts and obligations that are incurred by the business. This could be a lot. This means the sole proprietor's home, if they own one, car, bank accounts, all those sorts of things are subject to potential loss through debt and obligation incurred by the business. Some other disadvantages to doing business as a sole proprietorship include lack of business continuity, a lack of diversity in management, difficulty in transferring the business, the sole proprietor's limited ability to attract high, high caliber employees, and the limited ability to raise capital. So in operating a sole proprietorship, there are legal formalities. It's not a separate and distinct entity, so there really are no formalities to be completed to form the business. An individual who begins operating a business without taking any steps to form another type of business entity is basically a sole proprietor. Common sole proprietorship formalities include filing a certificate of assumed name, if there is a name other than the sole proprietor's name being used, obtaining a tax ID number, sales tax permits if needed, licenses to conduct their business, and also areas of intellectual property such as registering intellectual property come to play. When an individual or business organization transacts business under any name other than its own, that's when we have a situation of an assumed name or a fictitious name or a trade name that would need to be formally, distinctly noticed in the state's records. The requirements for assumed names are found in the state statutes, but most generally, if the name is not already in use and it complies with state statutes, an application for assumed name can be filed with the Secretary of State of the state where the business is going to be located, and they get formal permission to use the name in that state. Just minimal cost in doing that. There also may be a requirement by law in a state or your state that a notice of assumed name be published in a local newspaper prior to its being used. And the purpose of state statutes, though, are important because they regulate the use of names. And that protects the public, provides the public with notice as to who the persons with whom they're actually dealing. Sorry, I went ahead of my slide. One moment. Okay, well, now I'm not able to move back. Sole proprietors who hire employees need to obtain a federal employer identification number, and they do this by filing a Form SS4. These are done electronically with the Internal Revenue Service. And states also require the use of a tax ID number, and that can be obtained by filing an application with the appropriate state authority. The other areas of operation would include some types of business need a license to comply with state statutes and local ordinances. Think of a nail tech, a barber shop, that sort of business has a licensure issue, your therapist, etc. When the business of a sole proprietorship, though, involves intellectual property, like inventions, the use of words or symbols that represent the business or its products, or creative material, it could be beneficial for the sole proprietor to register its patents, trademarks, or copyrights. But the paralegal's role is short of giving legal advice to the proprietor. Paralegals can assist with all aspects of organizing a sole proprietorship. They're often involved in helping to prepare the required documents, the federal tax ID number app mentioned earlier, Form SS4, the required state tax ID number applications, any applications that are required for business licenses, and a paralegal might also prepare, file, and publish an assumed name or fictitious name form, and knowing these requirements are important, as well as being familiarized with the requirements for filing applications for intellectual property. so that you're able to assist in that area as well. So that concludes the lecture, the short lecture on sole proprietorships, and we'll move on to the next type of business in the next lecture. I hope you got some good information from this video lecture. Don't forget that I have a Teachable school account. Here is the address for that, mayananda-s-school.teachable.com. The name of my school is Mayananda. And also there's a coupon here for you to save some money. And finally, good luck on the exam. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.